Om Jnanatimidandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangam Langdekirim Yat Kripadamaham Vande Shri Gurudinadaranam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So this morning we will, instead of Bhagavatam class, we will continue with the seminar, which we didn't have yesterday. And we are coming to the stage called Anartha Nivritti, after we discussed Bhajana Kriya. Here we have again the overview. We spoke so far about developing faith and associating with devotees. And then yesterday morning we heard about the stage of Bhajana Kriya, which mainly describes the our unsteady devotion, Anishta Bhajana Kriya. And we heard about 6 different symptoms of unsteadiness on the path or in our practice. And we also mentioned that while we perform Bhajana Kriya and become more and more fixed in our devotional service, then the process of Anartha Nivritti also takes place simultaneously. That means the anarthas slowly are getting removed from the heart. And anarthas are the unwanted things in the heart. So that's why this stage is also called clearing obstacles to bhakti. And today we'll have a look at the different kind of anarthas that are there. It might be a little technical section of the book, but we hope to go through it. We can take something out of it. So Anartha Nivritti is the clearing of unwanted things, the anarthas, and this stage overlaps many of the higher stages, because not all the anarthas are removed immediately. It's not that once we have attained Nistha, when we become fixed, it's not that all the anarthas are gone. But some anarthas, they are, still there, up to very high stages actually. Okay, so first, and the next, what follows, this is not from Vishnava Chakravarti Thakur's description, but this is from Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes different kind of anarthas, different kind of unwanted things in the heart. Basically there's 4 categories. And we know this from Harinam Chintamani and Sachinanda Maharaj's book, what is called the Nectar Ocean of the Holy Name. Maharaj also in detail describes these 4 types of anarthas. So the first one is called Hridhaya Durbhaulya, which basically means a weakness of the heart. And there is attachment to objects that have no connection with Krishna. Other things. The tendency to cheat and find fault, kutinati, especially that tendency to find fault in others is very prominent, usually, in the conditioned soul. Then envy, to envy others, and the desire for prestige. And these are very crucial, anarthas. And it's also described when the bhakti lata, the plant of devotion, is growing. It's a very tender and soft little plant that grows, and in the meantime also a lot of weed is growing, and then like outside in a garden we have to pull out the weed so that the original plants that we want to cultivate have enough space and get enough sun and light and water, so we have to pull out these weeds, and these are some of these weeds that we need to take care of, especially this envy, and the desire for prestige, this pratishta. In the book of Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, Manashiksha, That's also very detailed explained, but that's a different seminar. But it's the desire for prestige is very deep inside. Like we may be able to somehow or other control the more gross desires, material desires. And of course, the most strongest desire is actually the sexual impulse. Sex desire is very strong. And of course, there is place for sexuality, but it requires some control. And but even if someone is controlling sex desire, it's described that the subtle form of sex is that desire for prestige and honor. And so that's very difficult to give up. And it's a very strong anartha. Okay, so these are the weaknesses of the heart. And then there is also offenses, or there is also another kind of apparat, or another kind of anartha, something which is not of value, which is an obstacle, and that's the aparada. And it's interesting, aparada, I think in the Bengali dictionary, aparada is described as zero radha. There is no radha. So devoid of devotion. So if we commit an aparada means an offense. If you do an offense, then Srimati Radharani will not be there. Or in other words, devotion will not be there. Devotion goes far away, wherever there is aparad. And then there is different kinds of aparad. There is offenses against the chanting of the holy name, against the form of the Lord, the devotees of the Lord, and the living entities in general. The Jiva aparad. Even ordinary people, every living entity deserves respect, and we have to be careful to not commit aparad against anyone. So these are the apparads. That's one type of anartha. And then asad trishna is an interesting term. Thirst for material objects. Trishna means thirst, and then asad means that which has no existence, which is temporary. So material desire for pleasurable sense objects, that's just a gross, different kind of enjoyment that the world offers. But then a little higher is desire for sensual pleasure in the heavenly planets. Let me be pious now and enjoy later in the heavenly planets. Then the desire for mystical powers to manipulate or control the material nature. And finally, the desire even for liberation is also an obstacle. Because even liberation is still selfish, it's still about me. I want to have liberation. So these are different desires, which are also a kind of anartha, an obstacle. And then fourth, we have tattva vibhrama. This is different forms of illusion about spiritual knowledge. Ignorance of one's own self, ignorance of the position of the Lord, ignorance of the process of sadhana and Prema bhakti, and ignorance of the factors hindering the development of Krishna consciousness. That's interesting. So there's different kinds of knowledge, and if we don't have that knowledge, if we are ignorant about it, then this also can be an obstacle, because we need to know. And that's why, of course, we have Srimad Bhagavatam classes and these kind of seminars, trying to educate ourselves about the process of devotional service, and especially this book, Madhurya Kadambini, actually very helpful in this regard also. And especially factors hindering the development of Krishna consciousness. That's exactly the description of anarthas. It's good to know these things. It is helpful. Okay, so these are the four types of anarthas that are therein within our hearts. And as we mentioned yesterday in the Sunday Feast class, spiritual life is actually all about, it's not so much about adding or attaining something, but more about removing that which is a hindrance. And we gave the example of Michelangelo, who was asked, how do you, make these amazing angels? There's just a stone, marble, and all of a sudden there is an angel. How do you do that? It's amazing. How is it possible? And if you think, if I would have to, make an angel out of, nobody would recognize. But these artists, they make such beautiful sculptures. So Michelangelo says, well, it's very easy. It's very simple. The angel is already there. I just take that away off, which is not angel. And sounds easy, but it's and it's the same. Spiritual life is the same process. We are already eternal servant of Krishna. We are spiritual souls, and we have that love for Krishna. Love of Godhead is there in the heart. It just needs to be reawakened, and whatever is a hindrance to it needs to be removed. And that's the process of devotional service. We don't have to artificially add something. It's just about removing that which is an obstacle. And that's all about this stage, Anartha Nivritti. All right, and then Srila Vishnu Chakravarti gives an interesting description. He describes where do one's anarthas come from. What is the origin of these obstacles that we have? Some anarthas come from sinful activities. Some come from pious activities, interestingly enough. Some come from offenses. And some even come from bhakti successfully performed. Like, okay. So I do devotional service, I worship God, and as a result, I get more obstacles. What is this? Okay, let's try to understand. So the first one, the first two are anarthas that coming from good and bad activities. And it's described, I mean, bad activities, I think we can understand. If you do some sinful activities, this creates more anarthas. No, if you do all kind of illicit activities, indulge in intoxication and illicit sex, and then naturally these material desires we described, desire for pleasure or envy and greed, will become more. I think that's understandable. What about the pious activities? The thing is, I mean, in one sense, pious activities, I mean, sinful activities, they create all kind of also ignorance, attachment, hatred, fear, and death. And the pious activities, they just also nurture the desire to enjoy more. Because if we perform pious activities, as a result, we can enjoy more, we get more happiness. And then with that more happiness, the desire to enjoy more also increases. So whether we are acting pious or impious, the desire for material enjoyment is always increasing. So in that sense, both pious and impious activities will nurture more anarthas in the heart. And then there is offenses. Some anarthas, they appear when we commit offenses. So again, we have this list of different kind of offenses that we already mentioned. And Srila Vishnava Chakravarti mainly, in his book, mainly focuses on these two offenses against the holy name, Nama Parad, and offenses against the devotees, the Vaishnava Parad. That's the main aparad Srila Vishnava Chakravarti focused. Why? Because the other offenses usually are not so strong, in a sense of, offenses against the deity. Do you remember in the Nectar of Devotion we find a description? What are different kind of seva aparat? Someone remembers? There's large lists, several pages describing all kind of offenses. Mm-hmm.
Like arguing.
Okay, arguing. Arguing, if you stand with the devotee in front of the deity, start arguing, fighting or something, quarreling. Yeah. Eating in front of the deities, yes. Not offering obeisances. Yeah. Crying, yes. Crying, interesting, yeah, crying. Stretching the legs, yes. Passing air, making not so nice noises. And then another offense is also to, of course, enter the temple room with shoes, or being carried on a palanquin into the temple room is also an offense. I don't know, it doesn't happen so often that some of us is carried on a palanquin. But these kind of offenses, of course, these offenses should be avoided because we have this respect and love for the deities, so we want to have a respectful behavior towards the deities. But it's described that these kind of offenses, if you just chant the holy name attentively, by the power of the holy name, these kind of, by the power of devotional service in general, these kind of offenses will be easily, removed. But the offenses against the holy name itself and the offenses especially against Vaishnavas, it's not so easy to remove. And that's why Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu called the Vaishnava Aparad also the Hati Mata, the mad elephant offense. Like an elephant is already a strong animal, but wait until an elephant becomes mad, it's really hard to control. And if such an elephant enters a garden, everything will be destroyed. So in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, this is now not directly from the Madhurya Kadambini, but it's just on the topic. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, if the devotee commits an offense at the feet of a Vaishnava while cultivating the creeper of devotional service in the material world, his offense is compared to a mad elephant that uproots the creeper and breaks it. In this way, the leaves of the creeper are drying up. So it's a very serious aparad. And it's interesting, in the Skanda Purana, we find 6 kind of Vaishnava aparads. One who kills a Vaishnava. Okay? Killing a devotee is an aparad. Shouldn't do that. I think that's quite obvious. So it starts with rather the gross and serious offenses, and then it becomes more subtle. One who blasphemes a Vaishnava, that's an offense. And that's a typical Vaishnava aparad. We criticize someone, we blaspheme, he did that, and he's like this. So that's the aparad, and we shouldn't do that. Then one who is envious of a Vaishnava becomes a little subtler already. Just envying another Vaishnava is an offense. You shouldn't envy. No, we should be very happy. If someone else makes spiritual progress, we should be very happy. And even if someone surpasses us, like sometimes we have new bhaktas are coming, and you see they're very enthusiastic, and after a couple of years, they, it's obvious that they're more advanced than many others, then we should be very happy. Not envy such a devotee. One who fails to offer obeisances to Vaishnavas upon seeing them. That's why in the morning we do Vanchakalpa Drubhyascha Kripa Sindhu. That's the most important part of the Mangalarti. We make sure that we offer our obeisances to all the Vaishnavas. And of course, maybe it's not so much our culture that all the time we offer obeisances when we see someone, but at least within our heart, we can Hare Krishna Prabhu, Hare Krishna Mataji. We respectfully greet each other. And if we don't do that, and if we neglect, kind of, in our hearts, we don't show respect to someone else, to another Vaishnava, then that's an offense. We always should have that feeling of respect for every devotee. And then one who becomes angry with the Vaishnava, it's also an offense. Sometimes we start to quarrel or argue with one another, and I don't like this devotee. I don't want to see him anymore. So that's also, even feeling that angry or that enmity towards a Vaishnava, it can be also considered an offense, so we should be careful. Of course, we can't. It's hard to love everyone and to have the best friendship with every devotee. It's maybe hard sometimes, but we always remember that it's a devotee. And then the last one, very subtle, one who does not become joyful upon seeing a Vaishnava. Sometimes we look in the temple, oh no, she's also there. No, so we are not particularly happy to see some Vaishnava. But that's already an offense, I remember there was one particular devotee, he was a senior devotee in our temple. And I didn't like that devotee so much. Actually, not at all. and then it happened that I was in Zurich on the street, and on the other side of the street, that particular devotee walked by. And when I saw him, I was like, hey, Haribol! And then I catch myself, why I'm so happy to see him. Usually I don't like that person. But then I kind of realized, the reason why I'm happy to see him, because I'm here amidst non-devotees, And here I see a Vaishnava, naturally I feel happy, there's a Vaishnava. So I had to be outside of the temple to recognize him as a Vaishnava. Within the temple, I just felt I don't like him. But outside, I realized it's a Vaishnava. And just the fact that he's a Vaishnava, nice to respect him. But then sometimes our, like ego and different stories that happen, or in dealings, we don't, then we start to develop some enmity to someone, and I don't like that one. But we should try to keep our heart open towards all the Vaishnavas. And if we are not careful, we are ending up like Daksha. Of course, we are not going into the whole story because that could be a different seminar on its own, Vaishnava Aparat. It's a very interesting topic. But Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur spends quite some time talking about this. So we know Daksha, he was a very qualified person, a very high personality, but then when he entered the assembly hall, everyone showed respect, but Shiva did not show respect. And what did he do? He started to blaspheme Shiva. What is this Shiva, what he's saying he is, And then he started to blaspheme, and he considered Shiva more to be like the person on the left side. No, he's dirty and he's not following the rules. And I know. And my daughter, she has eyes like a deer, but this person has eyes like a monkey, and he dared to marry my daughter. And actually, I didn't want to give him in marriage, but somehow I had to do because Brahma, kind of pushed me to do it. And so, and he really blasphemed Shiva in very bad ways. And in this way, he committed a great aparat. And then in the 4th chapter, Sati, the daughter of Daksha, chastise her father. She says, "Oh, twice-born Daksha, a man like you can simply find fault in the qualities of others. Lord Shiva, however, not only finds no faults with others' qualities, but if someone has little good quality, he magnifies it greatly. Unfortunately, you have found fault with such a great soul." And then there is a beautiful also shloka there in this 4th chapter, where is described the difference between Shiva and Daksha. Shiva is so exalted, he sees no faults. Even in a person who is full of fault, he still finds something good, and then he encourages that good. That's Shiva. And Daksha, even a person has no fault and is super qualified, he still finds some bad quality which is not even there. So just the opposite. And then there is several stages in between, also described. But as Srila Prabhupada teaches us, we should try to learn to develop, to cultivate which mentality? The mentality of the honeybee is always looking for the nectar, trying to see the good. And we should avoid the mentality of the fly, who's always going there where is dirty things. So how to counteract Vaishnava Aparat? This is pretty clear. Srila Jiva Goswami describes in his Bhakti Sandarbha, in order to be free from offenses unto great souls, one should please that same personality whom one originally offended through constantly engaging in the process of bhakti. Offenses to great devotees may be relieved either by experience the calamities they bring or by attaining the favor of the offended devotee. So there is two things. There is kshama, forgiveness, and there is anugraha, favor. So when we offend a Vaishnava, we should ask that particular Vaishnava for forgiveness, and then we should also offer some service to that Vaishnava in order to make sure to please him. Because sometimes we just say, it's easy to say, "Oh, I'm sorry, Prabhu, I'm sorry." I mean, even that's not so easy. Usually, even that's not so easy to ask for forgiveness. But sometimes we do, but it's just like lip service. We just say it, but we don't really feel it. And then that's why somehow we should try to please that person. And when that person is pleased, then we can be sure that the offenses is forgiven. And then Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, in his description here, makes a few interesting points. First it said, a person burned by fire seeks relief in fire. How to understand? In Ayurveda it's described if you burn yourself, then you should take some ointment which also creates heat. And that will help. So that's why that's saying. So by this logic, he should nullify his offense by lamenting, falling at the feet of the Vaishnava and satisfying him by offering him obeisances, praises and respect. If the Vaishnava is still unsatisfied, the person should render favorable service to him according to his desire for many days. So that's the idea. Asking for forgiveness and then trying to please that person. Then Vishnu Thakur also says, in an extreme remorse, sometimes the aparat is so grievous that the Vaishnava's anger does not die. In extreme cases, then one should, in great distress and remorse, one should take shelter in the holy name and just chant and chant and chant, and hope that by the power of the holy name, the offense will be removed. But in general, it requires the mercy of that Vaishnava. Otherwise, Krishna is not inclined to forgive. And then another thing is that one should not justify himself by arguing, well, the holy name alone is sufficient to deliver an offender. That's why what is the need of humbling myself and offering respect to a Vaishnava? That mentality makes one guilty of the offense of also namaparat, in the sense you think, oh, the holy name will take care. That, of course, that doesn't go. Then also a person cannot minimize the offense by pointing out some defect in the devotee. Like, yeah, I made an offense, but that person also is at fault. He's such a bad devotee. That also doesn't help. And also, because Padma Purana says, even a person of bad character, devoid of proper behavior, a cheater, devoid of samskaras, and full of worldly desires, if he surrenders to Lord Krishna, he must be considered a sadhu. So, it's not that, well, okay, I understand if I offend a great devotee, a sadhu, guru, then I have to be careful. But if I offend the bhakta, so-and-so, not a problem. No. In the eye of Krishna, he's also a devotee, and you have offended him, it's a problem. And another argument could be, well, yes, I offended a great devotee, but that's also not a problem because the great devotee is so merciful. No, I offended the Mahabhagavat, but Mahabhagavat is merciful. He does not see any offense. So no need for me to apologize. That's another argumentation. But it also doesn't work because the devotee may forgive, but Krishna will not forgive. And that's why we need to get the favor of the devotee and apologize. Anyhow, we could say more about this topic, but that's some of the points that are made. And of course, that's a very serious anartha if we criticize others, and we need to get rid of this one. Then Srila Vishnu Thakur speaks a little bit about the offense against the holy names, specifically about considering demigods like Lord Shiva or Prema to be equal or independent of Lord Vishnu. We don't go into detail of that, but we should understand that Krishna is the supreme, and Shiva and Brahma, they have their own position, and we respect them, but they are not equal to Vishnu. And then also disrespecting scripture. That's interesting. Srila Vishnu Thakur describes that Shruti Shastra Ninda is the fourth offense of disrespecting Shruti scriptures, considering that they do not mention anything about bhakti and are thus glorified only by worldly-minded people. Sometimes we see devotees say, this is only karma kanda, these scriptures deal only with... But that should be careful, that can be an offense. Because a devotee understands there's also Veda, and there's a plan behind. Krishna, by purpose, made this karma kanda, these materialistic Vedas or scriptures, in order to help people to elevate. So Vaishnava should see the whole picture, and not just only Bhagavatam is the... Of course we glorify Bhagavatam, and for us that's the only shelter. But we don't necessarily need to disrespect other Shastra. That's another thing. And then there is anartha arising from bhakti. be mentioned about that. How is that? What is anartha from bhakti? And in some way, we touched on it in the stage of Anishta Bhajana Kriya. As many weeds grow along with the main plant, along with bhakti appear wealth and other facilities, worship and respect by others, and a comfortable position and fame, labha, puja, pratishta. These weeds grow powerful and overwhelm the heart of the devotee with their influence. So, and that's why one should be careful of this. So there, we spoke already in the weakness of the heart about these, but sometimes a person might be quite, unqualified or has not experienced any honor and respect before he came to bhakti. But then he starts bhakti, all of a sudden he becomes a great personality, and then he starts to develop this desire for, respect and honor and puja. So it came through bhakti, and then he tries to enjoy it. And that's another kind of anartha. Okay. Any questions so far to the different obstacles in the heart? Yes.
I was thinking, envy came two times in the picture. One time was connected to fault finding, and I was wondering if they are actually one needs to, if fault finding is like a byproduct of envy.
Yeah.
And then it was also coming a little bit later. Anyway, maybe you can answer.
The other day we spoke about this, I think in the Bhagavatam class, that with envy usually comes that evil tendency to try to pull others down in order to feel again superior. No? If everyone else glorifies a certain person, and then I feel, why nobody glorifies me? I should make sure that the image of that person will be reduced, so that people again see me. So I try to pull them down, And then for that, criticism is very good. No, this person never comes to Mangalarti. It's not a nice devotee, not a good devotee. Why you're praising him so much for his cooking? Yeah, he maybe cook nice, but he also needs to do better sadhana. So you try to minimize him. And so that fault finding is very much connected with envy. Yeah.
And can envy be positive? I remember sometimes when I was like with Mars, some devotee will come to me and say, "Oh, I envy to."
Yeah.
Can it be like something all right?
We spoke about that also. In the spiritual world, there is something like competition. There's like devotees, they have a competition with each other, and every devotee wants to perform a better service than the other. That's there, but the focus is pleasing Krishna. Everyone wants to be better than the other devotee. Why? In order that Krishna gets more pleasure. Wow, they serve so nicely. I want to serve better. Why? So that Krishna gets more pleasure. And in the material world, I want to serve better than the others, so that I get more honor and respect from others. That's the difference. So in the spiritual world, in a pure sense, envy has no space. There's no place for envy. As we know, envy is also one of like the core reason why we are here in the material world, in the sense of that we're envy God. We want to take that position of the controller and enjoyer. But that kind of spirit of competition can be spiritual also. Can be. Yeah. Would you agree, or what is your realization on this?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So then, okay, another point. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm.
You don't react to some of those things, but you can see that they're present in the heart.
So see the Hridaya Turbali, this weakness of the heart, how to counteract or how to work on them? Yeah, good question. I mean, that introspection certainly is important to have that introspection and see, okay, it's there, and then also recognize when it comes up. And that's why Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave the example of that we need to become gardener. And gardeners, what do they do? They give water, they make sure that there is light, but then they also pull out the weeds. So yeah, we are supposed to become gardeners. And one way to do it is certainly in the association of devotees. Sadhu Sangha is extremely relevant in this regard. That we open up, like Srila Rupa Goswami describes the 6 kind of loving exchange, that we open up our hearts, that we admit to a close friend, I have this weakness in my heart, I have this anartha, and just doing that is very powerful. You can be relieved from the anartha just by revealing and opening up. That's one aspect, and the other aspect, of course, is just the process of devotional service. Chetudarpana Marjanam, like the chanting process, that will help to clean the heart. Yeah, I don't know. So anyone else has an additional solution? Yeah. I mean, if we do that, we're already doing good. Like, yeah, the devotee who is free of that. Yeah. Right, to associate with those devotees who are free from these obstacles and have developed good qualities, that just by that association we find inspiration. I also want to be, free from envy like that person. He's always so happy seeing others making advancement. So then taking inspiration from that. Yeah. To pray. Yes, pray to Guru and Krishna, asking Guru for mercy and praying to Krishna to help remove. Yeah, I think that's revealing, sadhusanga, chanting, and then praying. I think I like that's an important aspect. Okay, so then Srila Vishnu Chakra Thakur describes also the nullification of anarthas, because the whole stage of anartha nivritti means that these, now we spoke about the anarthas, but now anartha nivritti means they are taken away. How they are taken away? By the process, by devotional service, by practicing spiritual life, by worshipping Krishna, then these anarthas are removed. But they are removed in 5 grades, 5 different steps. It's quite technical and detail described by Srila Vishnu Thakur. We wonder how does he know and where this, But that's the acharyas. They have very deep insights. They experience these things themselves. They understand. So the first stage is limited or partial. Ekadesha vartini. That some anarthas are partially removed. They're still there, but partially removed. Then pervasive. They are like in a bigger scale removed, and then almost completely removed, then completely purna, and then absolute. So it's interesting, and then the different anarthas, according to where they come from sin, from piety, from aparad, or from bhakti. So they are removed on different levels, and I made this little overview here. This table shows what is obvious when you look at this table, that one kind of anartha is more difficult to get removed, right? If you have anarthas from sin, even on Bhajana Kriya, it's almost completely removed, and Nistha, it's basically, if you're fixed, you don't get much bothered by these kind of anarthas. Like these desires, I want to enjoy in heaven, and I want to enjoy material sense gratification. If you're on platform Nistha, which means you're fixed, you're steady, then you're not bothered by these problems anymore. And also these anarthas from bhakti, we mentioned this desire for pratishta and honor. Also these are completely removed when you become steady in devotional service. But aparat, especially Vaishnava aparat, yes, they are almost completely removed by ruchi. That means you have great taste. But they are still there till bhava. That's quite amazing, and this example is given can't remember the exact example, but it's something with smell. Like if there is smell of something, like I don't know. Sometimes you have a glass, yeah. Yeah, right. You have a glass, and something is inside, like camphor or something, and even if you remove it, even if you wash it out, there still will be a smell. Will be there because it was very strong. So this is compared on the stage of bhava. Bhava means like ecstatic emotion for Krishna. You actually love Krishna already. But there can be still a little bad smell there. Somewhere. Some bad smell of aparat is still there. That's amazing. It's like, it takes so long. And it's said only, and you see the last stage is not Prema here, it's Krishna's lotus feet. It means if we have personal darshan, if you directly see Krishna, personal darshan, only then all the anarthas are removed. Even if you develop prem, Vaishnava aparat still is not completely removed. Only if you see God face to face, then absolutely removed. And I like this picture here. Srila Prabhupada has darshan of Krishna. So if you're on that platform, then all anarthas completely, absolutely removed. And then Srila Vishnu Chakravarti makes the point that some may have doubt in these statements, and they have maybe doubts, and they maybe refer to stories in the Bhagavatam. We have two stories in the Bhagavatam. Here we see Chitraketu, and then on the right side we see Jai and Vijay. What do they have in common, Chitraketu and Jai and Vijay? What they have in common? They both had a darshan of the Lord, direct darshan, but afterwards they got cursed. No? Chitraketu, he got a special mantra from Narada Muni, and he got the darshan, I think, of Sankarshan, and then he was like pure devotee and making kirtan. And then he was cursed by Parvati. And Jai and Vijay, they are the doorkeeper of Vaikuntha. Obviously they have seen Narayan at some point before, because they're citizens of Vaikuntha. But then they got cursed by the Kumaras. So how is that? When we say that if you actually had darshan of Krishna, you're completely free from anartha and free from any reaction, how is that they still happen? And then Srila Vishnu Chakravarti says, this was pastime. Chitraketu, even when he became a demon as Vritrasura, his bhava, his prema didn't reduce. Even as Vritrasura, he was full of prema. And Jai and Vijay, actually we know, they felt like, we know the desire of the Lord likes to fight, but nobody is equal to him or can fight. So please let us somehow make us inimical towards you, and then we can go to material world, and there we can have a good fight. And in this way we can please your desire for fighting. So that's why these examples are given as this is lila. It's not that they actually fall down from Vaikuntha because this was their karma or there was some anartha. It was just lila. Okay, that's one point which is made, and then another point which is made is that about the glory of the holy name. That if we chant the holy name is so powerful that the holy name can actually remove all anarthas. But then Srila Vishnu Chakravarti makes the point that if we make offense against the holy name, then we lose the mercy of the name. And he gives the example like a servant and a master. If the servant displeases the master, then the master is not happy. But if then that servant repents and asks for forgiveness and continues with the service, at some point maybe that master again accepts that servant. So similarly, if we do offense against the holy name, we are in a very bad position. But what should we do? We should just chant more and more, and by chanting more, then we may again get the mercy of the holy name. That's another point that Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur makes in this chapter. And then the last 2 points before we end is that someone maybe argue that he never made any aparat. So why he is not getting the full mercy of the name? Someone may argue. I did never any aparat. Of course, it's quite a foolish person to say like that. To say I have never done any aparat. And then Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur says, well, maybe not in this life, but maybe in the last life or in the past he did aparat, and that's why. And what is the proof? The proof is this. You remember the shloka in the Bhagavatam? One's heart is certainly still framed if, when chanting the holy name, there is no change in the heart, tears in the eyes, or standing of hairs on the body. So when we chant the holy name, actually we are meant to feel deep spiritual emotion, tears coming from our eyes. Krishna, I'm missing you so much. Krishna, Krishna. But in Chaitanya Mangala it's described that Bhakti Yoga means to chant the name of Krishna, to remember Krishna, and to cry for Krishna. That's Bhakti Yoga. So when we chant, we're supposed to remember the person that we are meditating about, and then we're feeling deep sense of separation. And why don't we have this? Because our heart looks like this, or at least my heart looks like that. I don't know, your heart may be different, but my heart looks like this. And why is it? Because I still commit so many offenses. And the fact that I don't feel that emotion is the proof of that. And then the last point Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur makes is that, second last, that if one makes offenses, then one loses taste. Just like a person who is sick loses taste, like there's nice food stuff, but you don't have any taste. Some of you may experience during Corona. I 2020, at some point, for about 6 weeks, I didn't have any taste. It's quite the pasya. There's a nice prasadam, I don't know, nice sweets and nice, some nice, I like salty things like some crackers or some samosas. And everyone is saying, wow, so nice prasadam. And you taking no taste. No taste at all. You don't smell anything, you don't taste anything. And some people have it for months. I only had it 6 weeks. It's kind of, somehow I tolerate it. But some people have it months and months, no taste. But similarly, we may lose taste in spiritual life. We may lose taste in the holy name. And we have seen so many devotees have joined the movement, chanted Hare Krishna. At some point they became more distant. They may still be devotees, but many stopped chanting. Because no taste chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. No taste. And it's very unfortunate. And why there is no taste? Because of offenses. And then sometimes, that's the stage of anartha nivritti. So we're trying to get rid of all these offenses and these anarthas from the heart. And then the last point, Srila Vishnu Chakravarti makes that sometimes we see devotees like Yudhisthira and the Pandavas who achieved the association of the Lord, and certainly they must be freed from any karmic reaction or anartha, or they must be pure, but still they experience so much suffering. And why is that so? And then this example is given. Just like a tree blossoms in the right season. Now it's springtime, so now all the plants, they blossom and the flowers coming because it's the season. So similarly, sometimes the holy name, although someone may be pure already, but it's not yet the right time. And the holy name just is waiting. The holy name is waiting before he actually gives the full mercy to that devotee. So then sometimes we just need to be patient. and continue. Yeah. So that's the last point. Shri Radha Madan Mahana ki Jai, Shri Prabhupada ki Jai, Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol, Hare Krishna. Okay, so that was the discussion on Anartha Nivritti. Any last question or comment? Mm-hmm. Sobering, yes.
In one sense, it's encouraging, and in another sense, it looks like a mountain when you look at some of these things.
Yeah, you realize.
Maybe you can just help me a little bit. When you have this mountain in front of your nose, like, first thing I want to say is that it's encouraging, and maybe in a negative sense, that I'm not the only one. That's nice to see that even
Yes.
a person who is on an extremely high level may still have a problem somewhere.
Yes,
you know?
yes.
So in that way it's encouraging, but in another sense, like I said, this mountain. So maybe you can help me how to approach that, the fact that there is this mountain, and how should you?
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. That's, I think, a general emotion or feeling that we develop when we hear this description. That it's sobering. It really helps us to understand where we stand and that there is still a long way to go. It's fascinating that Srila Vishnavacharya Thakur just knows our heart so well. Like wow. Like also yesterday, this Anishta Bhajana Kriya. How does he know? That's exactly how I feel or what I'm going through. It's so nicely described. Well, I mean, if you continue participating in a seminar this evening at 5 o'clock, we speak about Nistha, and then it becomes more positive. and just hearing about the stage of Nistha gives us enthusiasm. Like, wow, yeah, there I want to go, And also Srila Prabhupada made that statement. He expects that his disciples at least come to the platform of Madhyamadikari. What does Madhyamadikari mean? That means at least Nistha. Nistha, you're fixed, and Prabhupada knew it. Once the devotees are fixed, then it will naturally, they will make progress. But before Nistha, there is any chance that devotees fall off and fall away. That's why Prabhupada also said, don't be surprised if devotees leave, be surprised if they stay. So at least Nistha, we should try to endeavor to attain the platform of steadiness. So, I mean, to your question, my answer would be just hear about the higher platforms, although they are still far away, but to hear how wonderful it must be to be there gives enthusiasm to work.
Well, I kind of like a challenge.
Yeah, that's a good challenge. Yeah, right.
Because, I did a lot of competitions with.
Yeah, that's a good challenge.
Nice that's a really nice challenge. But now that it's wow. Got your work cut out.
Okay.
We need help.
Yeah, that's obvious.
Also a question like similar to this question is this mountain of experience or how to say work in front of us, so to say. An interesting point that you made 2 times already was with this envy that is an obstacle or also an anata, just an envy of other devotees and stuff. Maybe you can elaborate one more time because that's a point for me personally. It's clear from my understanding, but it's not so clear how to remove it.
Okay.
How become free from
Yeah. How to
very
become free from envy. Yeah. I don't know whether I will be able to say much more than I did last time on the Bhagavatam class we spoke about it. I'm not sure whether I'm able to say more, but maybe with the help of other devotees we can see. I think a crucial point to understand is that envy comes from this feeling of a lack. I think I'm missing out something. I feel there is a lack, and I feel disturbed that others have something that I also want. And I have this illusion, it's a wrong misconception, that I think because they have it, I don't get it. There is not enough, And then I envy the other person and I try to pull the other person down. But actually there's plenty. I mean, it's not... So that's why the best thing, what we can do, we can try to nourish our heart. Like if we are spiritually nourished and happy in our Krishna consciousness, then there's no need to be envy, to feel envy. Like if we are self-satisfied, then we are happy. But the fact that we feel that inner emptiness, then we compare with each other, and then we feel that envy. So it's maybe not it's maybe an indirect approach, but it ultimately solves the problem because it goes to the root. And that's one aspect, and the other aspect, well, if we are not yet there, we still have this emptiness, and we do envy other devotees. Then, as we mentioned last time, that we may try to recognize, okay, envy is not good, and then try to do the opposite. And what is the opposite? The opposite is to glorify that devotee, to serve that devotee, and then see what happens. And usually Krishna becomes so happy that he will remove that envy from the heart. And for the false ego, that's very difficult, especially that person that you envy, to serve that person. The ego doesn't like to do that. But it's powerful, and it will reduce the ego, and it will attract mercy. But I'm very happy to hear if someone else has a better or other solutions, additional Guru Hari Prabhu. Of course, again, praying to the Lord would be helpful to.
I was thinking everyone has actually a special quality.
Yeah,
special
exactly. Yeah.
Offering he can do to the Lord, so he should not be envious that other can play better Mridanga. Everyone has something very specific he can contribute.
Right.
So focus on that.
Yeah. That goes in a similar direction that I mentioned. If you are more aware about your own strengths and the gifts that you have received, then you're happy with them, And no need to. Yes, he sings very nicely, but I have a different quality, and it's okay. I would also like to sing as nice as Prabhu does, but anyway, I'm okay, But if I have the feeling that I don't have anything, then it becomes very disturbing. Yeah. And that comparing, we also mentioned. I gave the example of the fish trying to climb a tree. No, is it a weakness of the fish that the fish cannot climb a tree? It's not a weakness. The fish is not meant to climb a tree. Fish is meant to be in the water. So we have this stupid idea that we compare each other, and then I want to be like him. Well, you're not meant to be like that person. You have a completely different nature. You're not meant to do that. But I like to be like that. Why? So then that's also very important to realize. Okay. Okay.
You wanted to ask about inner. The question is about inner and outer life, right? It's like in a person can be within the heart very good devotee, but outside doesn't look like this. Or others like opposite. From outside, a person can look
very nice,
like a perfect devotee, but in the heart, so many problems. So how could you explain this? Is it that one side can influence very much another side, like outer inner and inner outer?
It's interesting. To some degree, we will talk about this afternoon when we speak about Nistha, because there's different kind of Nistha. There is some people they are fixed, or they have attained Nistha when it comes to human qualities, and some have Nistha when it comes to performing devotional service. Ideally, you have both, but sometimes someone is very strict, fixed in seva and sadhana, in spiritual life, but not so developed in his human qualities. And sometimes someone is very developed in human qualities, but not so fixed in sadhana. So we talk about this in the afternoon. But in general, of course, Vaishnava means, Bhaktisiddhanta said Vaishnava, Saralata, Saralata, you say? Simplicity. Vaishnava has a simple heart. And what is the opposite of simple? Is crookedness. And crookedness exactly means, outside something, oh Prabhuji, I'm your servant, how can I serve you? And inside you think, better get rid of that person, he's stealing the show here. I'm so envious of him. So crooked means that you feel something inside, but you say something else out. So a Vaishnava is opposite. A Vaishnava is just very straightforward. Whatever is inside, whatever outside is the same. And then we need to develop that innocent or that simple. That's very important. It said Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Patita Bhavana. He's the savior of the most fallen. He's ready to go to hell to save someone, but he's not Patita Kapatya. He's not the savior of those who are crooked. If you're crooked, no chance that Mahaprabhu's mercy will reach you. It's like if someone sleeps, you can wake him up easily. But if someone pretends to sleep, you can do what you want if the one person doesn't wake up because he's just pretending. So that's why crookedness is, you're doomed. There's no chance to get any mercy. Yeah, I think we should.
Just sure.
Yeah,
You
okay.
said about the last point you said about Pandavas that is actually, is it because I was always often think also Pandavas, how difficult the life of them was, and also Kunti. Kunti, is it the same? Is it Lila?
Yes, it is Lila. Of course, we should be careful. We should never use the term Lila. That like if we suffer, it's just Lila. that's Lila. Usually is Krishna. When Krishna appears, then that's Lila. And in our case, it's karma. That's the difference. But when it comes to the associates of the Lord, those eternal associates, it's also part of the Lila. But there is a deeper meaning also that. There's a saying that a crystal it looks more beautiful with a black backdrop or something. So Krishna likes to glorify his devotee. That's his main favorite, one of his favorite activity. He likes to glorify the devotees. And how do you glorify devotees? If they go through very great difficulties, then their good qualities will be manifest and shown to the world. And that's how everyone glorifies them. Till now, everyone glorifies the Pandavas. They went through so much difficulties. They are so amazing. They never complain. They're always... No, if everything would have been nice, who would speak about the Pandavas? But because they showed how tolerant they were, how humble they were, how surrendered they were, that's why we speak about them. Also Srila Prabhupada had so many challenges, so many difficulties. And that's how we glorify him. Like he went through it and he was so determined. So that's one way that Krishna puts his devotee in this situation. One reason to teach us, to give us a role model. Okay, if I'm in difficulties, then I should do like the Pandavas do, to teach, and the other to glorify them. That's some of the reasons why devotees go through these struggles. The pure devotees. We go through the struggles because our heart needs to be purified, because we need to get rid of these anarthas. That's why we suffer. But the Mahatmas or Mahabhagavats, they are going through struggle because of this reason. Okay, and we'll end here. And at 5 o'clock we continue with Nistha, the positive, hopeful message of the book. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai.